This was a coalition that won Trump the presidency. The white working class, non-college voters, lower-income Americans, the backbone of the realignment that put Trump back into power. But right now, it's collapsing. We're talking about voters who make under $50,000 a year, that's Trump's voters, swinging from support to outright rejection. One recent poll has Trump at just 29% approval rate and 70% disapproval among that very group. That's a net negative 41. This isn't marginal erosion. This is utter collapse.
And it's not happening in a vacuum. These are the same voters who were told explicitly that the administration was about them, not Wall Street, not foreign entanglements, not donors, them, the American people. But now they're looking at rising cost, foreign conflict, instability, and they're walking away. Analysts are describing it as a mass abandonment of the very demographic that delivered victory in the first place.
Right. And if we zoom out for just a second, this isn't just one group. Trump's approval has slid across basically every block. But when you lose the core, the people who actually carried you across the finish line, that's game over. There's a reason that Trump's entire political identity was built around the white working class. That was the innovation. That was the realignment. And now it's unraveling in real time.
Which obviously begs the question, why? Why would a president hemorrhage support from the exact voters that he built his movement on? Take the pardons. They're not just controversial, it's a pattern. One of the clearest cases is Joseph Schwartz. He was a nursing home operator convicted in a $39 million fraud scheme. Families sued over deaths tied to his facilities, and then Trump wipes it away, full pardon, and not just wipes it away, leaves the victims holding the bag. Families who won wrongful death judgments worth millions of dollars cannot collect the money. The guy enriched himself, collapsed facilities, hurt people, and then walks away. It's not exactly draining the swamp.
No, it's not. This is not a one-off, sadly. It's a pattern of clemency for white-collar criminals, insiders, people with connections. And the message that it sends to the working-class voter is pretty simple. There are two systems. There's one for you, Goyim, and one for them. And if you're sitting there making $40,000 a year, watching that while being told that there's no money, no relief, no focus on your issues, then you start to ask, who is all of this actually for? Because while that base is struggling to survive, these pardons are all taking place right in front of our faces. And all the while, under the surface, you're seeing something else. That is a relentless, consistent, almost singular focus in one direction: foreign policy, specifically Israel first.
And it's not just standard support. This is something much deeper, much more aligned, much more consistent and unrelenting.
So before we get into today's episode, instead of just taking our word for it, why don't you hear from the horse's mouth, from Trump himself and some of his closest advisors?
Frankly, evangelicals and Christians, just Christians, I think they like Israel more than Jewish people like Israel, if you want to know the truth. It's really true. I get so many coming up, and I don't know when that started. It did start not thousands of years ago, I can tell you. It started. But the love for Israel is great. You wouldn't.
And these people do like Israel.
Hold on. And he loves Israel too.
It's true.
2 seconds. Just 2 seconds. 6 years ago, I was up here, and I said, "This is our first Jewish president."
It's true.
Now he's the first Jewish president to serve 2.
And the thing that makes this so appalling is that Jews built the left in this country. We built the labor movement. We wrote the New Deal. 70% of the lawyers who worked on civil rights cases were Jews. We've been at the forefront of every liberal and leftist issue in this country. The absolute chutzpah of saying, you're not welcome here. You know what it reminds me of? When they banned smoking in bars. I was a smoker, and I was so outraged. I was like, if there's going to be a turf war over this, surely the smokers should have gotten the bars, okay? And you can so easily imagine a counterfactual in which the left in America said, wait a minute. We can't oppose Zionism because we would lose our beloved Jews who have been there with us at the forefront every minute that we built this movement. We have to find a way to make sure that Zionists still feel welcome. We could never do that to them. And they didn't do that. They did the opposite.
When your ankles swell up 3 times the size they were before, that means heart failure. And he does look sick. And he does babble and, sound like the brain's not doing too hot. And so we just cut bait on Trump and we just mobilize against the Democrats. And we mobilize against neocons, we primary them, and we just fight even harder because look at how we've turned the tide. Look at all the good we've done. There's a fourth turning. Populists, nationalists, conservatives are winning everywhere. There's a Christian reawakening. And Trump is just a minor figure in all of that now. And we have to be appreciative of the old Trump that went through so much and got so much done. And that's the Trump we remember. And we're just sad because that happens. We need to be sad about Trump. This is not funny. This is not good. But he's gone. And that's it. And all the people rallied around him, you can see Hegseth's freaked out. You can see the press secretary's freaked out. They're being loyal. They think it's the lesser of two evils. And okay, but I just... Trump needs an intervention. He needs to take some time off. We need to pray for Trump that the Holy Spirit touch his heart and loose him from whatever evil control he's under. I'm serious. And I think that's the answer. We need to pray for President Trump. We need to pray for other people to be awakened. We need to pray for justice and peace because we're in so much danger.
Radical Christian nationalist pastor, Joel Webbin.
Joel Webbin? I'm going to talk about Joel Webbin today.
Joel Webbin has been excellent.
Well, in the spirit of that clip from Alex Jones, we actually have Harrison Smith live in person in the studio with us. He works for Infowars. He's a personal friend of Alex Jones. And I just want to say, I noticed, even in the chat, somebody saying, Alex Jones is still coping. I understand that sentiment. I don't blame you for saying that. We're not coping, and here's why. Let me be honest. I'm not coping. I have quickly been able to see what's going on for what it is, but part of the reason why is because I've never met Trump. I don't have a personal friendship with Trump. At the end of the day, I want what is pleasing to the Lord and what's good for Americans. Alex, in his defense, actually knows Trump, actually loves Trump, like truly loves Trump, has spent time with him, has talked to him. And so I actually think that disposition from Alex is really... it's powerful because a million different voices like ours can come out and say, Trump is compromised. I think he's blackmailed. It's Israel first. You got Mark Levin saying he's our first Jewish president and him responding saying it's true. And all those things are blatant and obvious and they need to be said. But it's actually profound and powerful when someone like Alex, you can view it as like Alex is late. Okay, but when Alex comes late, he comes strong, and he actually comes with a certain degree of authority as someone who has been in the ring for Trump, arguably more than just about anyone. So when Alex comes out and says something like this, it carries a weight that I don't carry because that he's speaking about his friend. He's speaking something that genuinely breaks his heart to say out loud, something he never wanted to say. So that's why we wanted to show that clip at the end, and that's part of the reason why we wanted to have Harrison on, because he works closely with Alex, and we're going to be talking about the real undeniable compromise of Trump. And I think Alex there is a little bit of, you can call it cope, but what it really is, I think, is a guy who loves Trump, who is Trump's friend, or at least has been. And he's trying to recognize, be honest, because Alex is an honest person, be honest and say, yes, this is bad. There's no denying it, but then giving the most defensible, benign explanation for the compromise possible. Maybe he's sick. Maybe he needs time off. Let's ask that the Lord, the Holy Spirit would touch his heart. And I actually respect that. I really respect it. That said, for me, I don't think that Trump is sick. I mean, he's 80-something years old, so like every 80-year-old has some kind of ailment, swollen ankles, whatever. I think there's an element of that. But I think the biggest thing, I see Trump as King Theoden, who's under a dark spell and has Mark Levin and Susie Wiles and all these Jewish influencers in his ear, worm tongue, telling him what to do. I think that Trump, it's ironic because you think Trump just cares about consensus. He just cares about the populist sentiment, but that's not actually true. A lot of people are loyal to Trump, but that's because Trump actually himself is a very loyal person. Trump actually is willing to tank in the polls, as we're seeing right before our eyes. I mean, the dude is tanking. He wants to be liked, but he's actually shockingly content to be liked by a minority of people against being disliked, disapproval from the majority of people, if he thinks that those few people who like him, that he has an obligation to be loyal to them because they're his true friends. And somewhere in this second administration, and I think in the campaign leading up to it, through donors, through Miriam Adelson, through all these things, it switched from Trump's populist base in his first term, the white working class American, to this insider circle saying, Trump, we're your true friends. We really love you. And they're all Jews or Jew adjacent. But either way, Alex is acknowledging the compromise. He's saying it out loud, which is costly for him to do. And Harrison, you've had a front row seat seeing Alex come to these conclusions. You're with us today. Thank you for coming on the show. I want to give you the mic for a second, and then Antonio, you're going to break down our first story.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I definitely appreciate it. And I have had a front row seat. The good news is, if anybody out there wants to have a front row seat, Alex Jones streams 3 hours a day, 7 days a week at this point. I mean, we're doing Saturday and Sunday shows almost every week.
Machine.
So, a lot of people have a misinterpretation of Alex because you'll see one clip from one show out of context, and people will act like that's his entire philosophy. I don't think I need to defend Alex Jones, and I don't even think he needs defense. I think if you watch his show, he speaks for himself, and he'll explain exactly to the audience his reasoning, why he takes certain positions, speculation, maybe this is happening, regardless, here's what we need to do. It's never been about Trump sycophancy, and this is a sort of rewriting of history. Somebody was commenting on my ex yesterday, oh, you guys just got on the MAGA train, and now that it's going down. Infowars has been on the air for 30 years. Really and honestly, if you look at the record, Alex Jones made Trump a lot more than Trump ever made Alex Jones. The freedom movement existed before Trump. It will exist after Trump. And in fact, at this point, it's not even a question of is Trump over. He just is. It's just factual. And that could be as of next year when the Democrats get into office and start impeaching him and his presidency basically becomes lame duck. But regardless, even if he makes out a strong, ends the administration strong, he's not the candidate again. It's over. We have to be looking on, into the future, regardless of how you feel about Trump. But when it comes to, Alex, especially, Infowars has been, and Alex in particular has been a primary target, the number one target after Trump himself of the left, and that means lawfare, and that means they're going to throw him in prison if they get back in power. And they're saying that they're going to do that. I mean, they're talking about that. And so it's a matter of it's not a question of do we want Trump to win. It's like Trump has to win or the country's over. And we personally get totally eviscerated. Even though we've never done anything wrong, we've never broken any laws, they will come after innocent people just like they did after January 6th, only on a much greater scale. So it's like this is a real war, and you can be mad at the aircraft carrier, but you sink without it, right? It's like this is our guy. This is the horse we rode in on. We have to do everything we can to try to help him win, because the other option is just unapproachable. I think the King Theoden example is just the perfect metaphor for Trump in a couple ways, right? For one, in the movies, it's the first time you hear about King Theoden's situation, the condition he's in, you could say, is when they meet somebody who's been exiled, right? An actual loyal, good person who tried to tell the king what was really going on, who was kicked out of the country. Well, we're seeing that with people like Joe Kent right now. And so I really think with Trump, we have this like Mad King syndrome that isn't a matter of fantasy. I mean, this is just like a regular feature of tyranny, honestly. People surrounded by yes men who make bad decisions, but they're not told their decisions are bad. They're told, oh, no, this is a great idea. And yet things keep getting worse, so they keep getting angry. I mean, this is a cycle that we've entered into that can be very dangerous if the ego of the king isn't under control. But with Theoden in particular, it's like, when people ask, like, well, do you still support Trump? It'd be like if I was a Rohanian and I was asked, do you still support King Theoden? It's like, not as he is now. You look at him now, the dude is not himself, but he's in there somewhere. But I do still believe that he's in there somewhere. And people can say that's code. People say, oh, you just want to think that he's being tricked. Really, this is all him. I don't think that's the case. Joe Kent didn't think that was the case. I've said before, I think it's like a Truman Show reality that's been constructed around him, because it's not just about a single worm tongue in his ear. Yeah. It's about the TV shows that he watches and the multiple layers of advisors that are manipulating him. And I actually wonder, and I got to credit my co-host on Moonbase Live, John, for this. He was thinking that the generals that were fired yesterday, a bunch of big generals fired yesterday, and everybody's saying, oh, they're firing them to replace them with yes men. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Trump has had these people saying, yes, sir, we're doing great and everything's amazing and we're perfect. And he finally realized, hey, these guys had a terrible plan. It didn't work out and they've been lying to me. We don't know because there's been no explanation about it. But everything these days can kind of be seen through both lenses. Either they weren't yes men enough or they were too much of yes men. I guess it's all speculation. But at the end of the day, I do believe that Trump has been totally fooled. I think he's being made a fool of. I think it's his fault. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, he's responsible.
He is the one responsible, and fool me once type of thing. Fool me 10,000 times. It's on Trump.
Seeing some of the poll numbers that are coming out, like he's an older guy. He's on Truth Social. Nobody's on Truth Social. I mean, look at this. This is it's actually not my Bitcoin portfolio, believe it or not. It tracks pretty closely.
There's a correlation.
This chart, if you can see it, we might have on the screen. This is Trump's approval among white, non-college educated voters just from February 2025. Harrison, at some level, I have to think there's people not even willing to tell him the polls. He's not seeing them organically. Because if he knew, I mean, at this point in his presidency, his second term, I think the most unpopular, not one of, the most unpopular presidents in modern history, at this point in his presidency, I feel like he's the type of guy that if he even knew that, he'd be like, what are we doing? Does he not even see these? Is he so insulated that they're telling him it's great, the people love you?
Well, you see it on CNN where they go, we polled MAGA and they say 100% in favor of the Iran war. So, obviously there are those polls that exist, and you can cherry pick each one of those.
CPAC, the approval, we were at CPAC, it was like 95, 97%. Now, also that was the average age there, 95 to 97 years old. So you can kind of guess as to why.
Yeah. So he could cherry pick those. This also might be sort of the downside, the double-edged sword aspect of the fact that his whole career, the media's lied to him about his poll numbers, right? And so he's sort of in this mode of like, of course they're saying I'm unpopular. They always say that, and they're always wrong. And the one time that maybe they're not wrong, he hasn't, changed his mind to fit the new reality.
You also have to think like Trump 1.0, he was the master of the friend-enemy distinction. That's what we loved about him. He was so good at identifying people who just, there was no point of compromise for these people. They hated him. They wanted to destroy him. They wanted to destroy heritage Americans, so on and so forth. And now it seems as if like he's just changed the friend. Like in one way or another, the people he identifies as friends are different than they were back in 2016, 2017. And so perhaps he's looking at this poll and saying, like he said about those who don't like Mark Levin or criticize Mark Levin, it's just they're not MAGA. They're not my friends. And so he's like perfectly content for the first time for his white, non-college educated white voters to be dipping below, 50% support. And he's just like, yep, that's what it is. These are my friends. These are the people that I'm going to back and support. So you have to think that's at least part of it.
Real quick, so we're going to go into our first story. We're going to be talking about the guy who's over the nursing home. He is Jewish, and he was literally allowing seniors to die. I mean, they were laying in beds with fecal matter, the huge sores in their backs not being taken care of. Many people lost family members, and the guy has been completely pardoned. I mean, it was a $37 million fraud scheme.
Insane.
Completely pardoned. And why? Well, he made a donation to Trump. He's MAGA because he's Jewish and made a donation to Trump and said, I'm your friend. And so What does it take to get away with fraud these days? Well, you can get $37 million of fraud if you make a $1 million donation and you claim to be MAGA as redefined by Mark Levin. So we're going to be getting into that story and breaking it down. But real quick, I just wanted to mention for the listener, this has been honestly like shattering all of our expectations. We thought that maybe we'd sell 1,000 copies or maybe 2,000 copies. Here we are at the end of March. And so we just launched this book. It's the first publication from NXR Studios. We launched it on January 2nd. It's been one quarter, Q1, 3 months, and we've sold getting close to 5,000 copies now. It's called The Hyphenated Heresy. Subtitle is Judeo-Christianity. And from a political angle, biblical, theological angle, just tearing apart that myth of Judeo-Christianity. What fellowship can light have with darkness? The answer is none. Judeo-Christianity is, it's not a thing. It's a political hoodwinking scheme in order to drum up support for the nation state of Israel that goes against everything that the Bible actually teaches. So Judeo-Christianity, dispensational Zionism, all these things that many Protestant Christians, dispensationalists, Zionists have fallen for, we just completely debunk every single one of them. Myself and Jordan Hall, we're the co-authors, and you can get it on Amazon right now. If you just look up The Hyphenated Heresy on Amazon. Again, we're coming up by the grace of God. We're super humbled and honored by all of you who have benefited from this book. But coming up on 5,000 copies, go to Amazon, The Hyphenated Heresy, check out the book today. All right, Antonio, you're going to break down our first story.
Yeah, let's jump into this story about Joseph Schwartz. We'll pull it up here. I'll be reading from this article from the New York Times that was published at the beginning of March. But before I jump in, and you'll have to bear with me because it's actually so much bigger than one person. So it's easy to say, okay, well, this person had friends and influences in the Trump administration. But actually what this article points to is it's actually a system, if you will, of lobbying firms that have the ear of Trump, the Trump administration, Trump himself, or Trump officials. And it's actually systematized in the way that they can manipulate for the purposes of favoring, inmates who are, for example, pro-Israel or inmates who are Jewish, so on and so forth. So I'm going to jump back right into here, and you'll see how bad this really gets. So we'll start from the beginning. Reading from this article here up on the screen. One evening last November, word spread around a federal prison camp in Otisville, New York, that an inmate who had spent heavily to pursue clemency had hit pay dirt, winning a pardon from President Trump and walking free. His release intensified an ongoing debate for those who were left behind, that is, in the prison. Who could they pay to achieve the same result? There was a lot of farce in the clemency campaign of Joseph Schwartz. He had served only 3 months of a 3-year sentence for tax crimes related to a nursing home empire that had collapsed amid allegations of endangering the residents and defrauding his employees. Mr. Schwartz had not been shy about sharing the strategy behind his clemency campaign with other inmates, so they knew he had paid multiple people to try to get the job done, according to 2 people familiar with the conversation in Otisville. Nearly $1 million went to right-wing operatives who claimed to have worked with Laura Loomer, a social media provocateur who has the ear of Mr. Trump, to advocate for Mr. Schwartz's release. Another $100,000 or more was paid to a lobbyist who had a different set of connections to Mr. Trump, pro-Israel evangelicals. It is based in part on the proposition that paying the right person to deliver a message tailored to Mr. Trump's politics or grievances is more important than demonstrating remorse or even a low likelihood of recidivism. Even in the nursing home industry, which is plagued by tax and insurance fraud, chronic understaffing and neglect, Mr. Schwartz's rise and fall stood out. Their company, Skyline Healthcare, owned about 100 nursing homes and rehabilitation facilities in at least 11 states that employed as many as 15,000 people. It was not a moment too soon for the Redfield facility, one of these institutions, where one woman worked as a cook. She said, recalling that the power company was threatening to turn off the electricity for non-payment of bills. Additionally, this same woman who was fighting leukemia said her health insurance benefits and those of other employees were not being funded, forcing them to pay out of pocket or to forego medical care entirely. We'll jump a little bit further down the article. It says, the efforts by Mr. Berkman and Mr. Wohl, these are 2 people that were paid by Mr. Schwartz to advocate for his clemency, and Ms. Loomer, did not keep Mr. Schwartz out of Otisville. So in other words, the initial payments that he had made to get out of prison failed. and he reported there and actually showed up and was serving his sentence. He began leading a Torah study class for inmates. Frustrated, Mr. Schwartz stopped paying Mr. Berkman and Mr. Wool's firm. He turned instead to Josh Nass, a lawyer and a lobbyist with connections to pro-Israel Jewish and evangelical circles. Congressional lobbying files show that Mr. Schwartz paid Mr. Nass at least $100,000. This time around, Mr. Nass implemented a more comprehensive strategy. He enlisted evangelical figures with connections in Mr. Trump's circle to highlight Mr. Schwartz's cause to the administration's allies. They emphasized Mr. Schwartz's faith, the Jewish faith, and argued that this was a matter of religious liberty. The day after Mr. Trump signed the pardon, Mr. Schwartz finally spent Shabbat free and safe with his family. So you can see there, as we go through some of the various sources in the different lobbying firms and different individuals involved, this was very clearly an organized, probably often repeated system of clemency. Trump clearly has this as the article states, this pro-Israel evangelical circle, and it's basically just massaging President Trump by his friends and influencers, people like Laura Loomer, who are basically saying, hey, this guy's Jewish, he's our friend, and he likes you. He's allied to the cause that is the pro-Israel cause, and you need to release him. And we have to assume that this is done time and time again, and it's bad. It shows, to the point earlier, before we even jumped in the article, it shows the extent to which I think Trump is captured. He's compromised. He has a completely false view of who his friends are and who he goes to bat for and who he defends. And he's completely surrounded and insulated in a way that's, I think, even for the average American who loved Mr. Trump or supported him, voted for him 2016, 2020, 2024, it almost seems like a rat, if you will.
It's absolutely disgusting. I couldn't help, as I was looking over across the table, you were reading the article, Antonio, and then breaking it down. I caught in my peripheral Mr. Harrison Smith cackling, laughing a little bit. What are you thinking?
Well, it's just the way it ended with saying that, they appealed to, this was a matter of faith. It sounds like they were saying that, like, look, it's a matter of religious liberty. He gets to scam people. It's his prerogative. That's the way it was phrased, made it sound like the scamming itself was this was an act of religion. They're violating his religious liberty by stopping him.
I'm going to go hard in the paint for just a moment and say it is an act of religion. I think it actually is religious liberty in the sense that I mean, they say it out loud at this point. I mean, we're sitting here at the table with the guy who made the 12-minute video, the Eighth Front War, that has gotten like 15 million views.
20 million.
20 million.
Oh, my.
On X.
Wow.
So we'll see, but yes, thank you.
Just like the number of Holocaust survivors that goes up every day. But I mean, what was so compelling about that video was it was no commentary. It wasn't you saying in your own words. You just were clipping out, Jewish leaders in their own words. Some of them were Mossad. Some of them were, Bibi Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel. But then some of them were just Jewish billionaires who aren't even Israeli citizens, but who, live here in America. And the things that they're saying, this is what we're doing, this is what we're going to do. And in the spirit of that, there are many influential Jewish people who have said verbatim in their own words, abortion is a Jewish sacrament, or sodomy, that like one of the biggest, gay pride parades is hosted in Tel Aviv. And so to make that argument, of course, it's disgusting and it's laughable and all that is true. But they mean it when they say, look, scamming people is an act of religious liberty. Really? Which religion? Judaism. That's which one.
Well, and of course, the Epstein emails are replete with them basically expressing that sentiment is, okay, this is what happens. We get to take advantage of these people. And to me, the biggest irony of it, and it's sort of just emblematic of the frustration with Trump, right? The topic of this talk is just like it's not even necessarily like Trump pardoned this guy. I doubt we'd even know about it. It's the hypocrisy of the fact that he pardoned him on the day that they launched the fraud task force. Wow. So it's like it's so emblematic. And I was saying, I remember just a couple months into Trump's administration when we were still kind of excited and going, things are looking pretty good. It was like, all right, everything he does that's good seems to have an asterisk, seems to have a 6-pointed asterisk on it that says, they're deporting people as long as they're critical of Palestine. And they're, this. So it's like everything he does, it seems like there's this little carve out, this little exemption for people like Mr. Schwartz, where we are fighting fraud, unless you're Jewish, in which case, it's kind of fine. But everybody else we're getting. And it's a glaring hypocrisy
That's a great
that
point.
has
It's almost like inadvertently good for people, Trump's former constituency. It's like, it's actually, he's doing it, and we're like, oh, that seems right. But it's actually not, we're not the people who's doing it for. And so to your point, there's all of these conditions that we're like, oh, okay, we see how it really is.
Which it's like, okay, if we were getting mass deportations and all of this stuff was happening and we were doing stuff for Israel, I don't think we'd care as much as we do now when we're getting nothing, and yet they seem to be able to move the heaven and earth, and there's no barriers and no judge's injunction stopping them. They get everything they want immediately when it comes to anything for Israel or the Jewish people. They don't have to be Israelis.
And just a couple cases of points. So this is him attacking, the prestigious universities in the Northeast like Harvard. And you're like, oh, he's attacking them for anti-white discrimination, right? No, it's for anti-Israel stances or anti-Palestine protests, whatever the case is.
It's the best example.
And then, or even if it's the tariffs, you're like, oh wow, pro-America protectionist policies. It's good for the farmers. And then it's like he immediately compromises with China and lets in 50,000 international students to these same colleges that he's attacking. So it's like at every turn, to your point, Harrison, it's like one issue after another. We're just seeing like we're not the people that he's actually defending.
I liked what you said too about why people, especially now, are really mad. Because to be honest, especially like anti-war side of things, people have been mad at Israel since their inception. They've recognized that the U.S. has given, not just starting in the last decade or two, we've given them billions of dollars over their entire existence. So why is it right now that this issue is absolutely tearing apart the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, and you hit the nail on the head? People's quality of life is down. Right. That's the big thing. I think about the Iran war. Pete Hegseth was requesting, I think it was $200 billion for the war. The border wall, which we were promised back in 2016, top end, $45 billion. Yep. Somehow we haven't found the funding for that. Somehow we haven't found the ability to get that done. But we can request 4 times that amount in order to go ahead and get this wall. Mm-hmm. We're happy to tank oil prices. We're happy to do all of this. But of course, any type of relief as it comes to home ownership, all of those things, can't get it done. So we can't get the deportations done. We can't get the wall done. We can't get fraud taken care of. We can't get these Somalis that are also scamming. Like, they're not Jewish. Can we please take care of them? Oh, nothing's really happening. We're not punishing the Biden administration that threw guys like Steve Bannon in jail. We're getting none of that. And there still seems to be a lot of effort to care for people. Oh, it's to care for people. Joseph Schwartz didn't even contest that the fraud happened in court. He did not go to court and say, no, I'm being maligned. This isn't true. No, pled no contest. He's like, yeah, I did it. That's where the effort's for. Iran, that's for their war. Israel's war. We have all of this effort over here. Americans languishing here, struggling with jobs, being replaced by foreigners. Don't even get a second look.
You're absolutely right. And now Trump is saying out loud. I mean, he just said this in his speech, and then he's doubled down on it afterwards with Truth Social and certain statements that he's made just in the last 48 hours. That for 2027, as we head into the next year, that he's ramping up the entire U.S. economy to be a war machine for fighting Israel's war and absolutely decimating Iran. And in order to do it and get the money, he's going to be cutting the benefits of your everyday Americans. So healthcare, forget that. Cheap gas, forget that. Cheap groceries, forget that. We're going to streamline the entire American economy towards one thing. And what is that one thing? What are we going to benefit with? The one thing is to wipe one of the premier players in the Middle East off of the map so that Israel can expand its borders, achieve hegemony, and as Bibi just came out in the last 72 hours and said verbatim out of his own mouth, become a superpower. I think he didn't just say superpower. What was the phrase that he used?
Global superpower?
Regional. I think he said regional for sure.
He said regional and global, yeah.
Wow. Like a global superpower in the Middle East. Here's the deal. Israel has never done anything for us. They don't give us money. Even now, it's American soldiers are going to go in. The IDF is saying, no, we're not going to do that. You guys can die for us. We're not going to die for you. It's always been a one-way street. It's never been a mutual friendship. Think about this for a second. Think about the way that Israel feels about us and the long list of all the things they've done for us. It's a short list. There's nothing on it. That's over the last 75 years as we've been bankrolling Israel with both money, blood, sweat, tears for almost a century at this point. If they actually do secure superpower status, how are they going to feel about us then? We know how they treat us when they need us. How will they treat us when they don't need us? They're already setting their sights on Turkey now, right? So they're looking past Iran. That's going to be taken care of. Next, problem is Turkey. And mark my words, all right? I don't always make predictions, but I'll make this one because it's pretty safe bet. Over the next, I would argue, 3 to 12 months, you will see coming out of Israel, coming out of the mouth of Benjamin Netanyahu, you will see rhetoric starting to find some reason why Turkey is actually a danger. I wouldn't be surprised if within the next year we find out, well, there's weapons of mass destruction and nuclear capability in Turkey and they can't be trusted. And then all of a sudden, we got to take them out too. What are we doing ultimately? What we're doing is we are clearing the board in the Middle East for Israel to attain hegemony, to become a superpower where they no longer need us. They've hated us even when they have needed us. The moment they don't need us, we're screwed. What we're losing right now on the global stage, and really you could argue we lost it 15 years ago, but in terms of the optics, the perception, what we're seeing now is the whole world is coming to terms with the reality that America is not that powerful, that we are not the superpower that we once were, and it's going to be divided into regions. You're going to have China on the one hand, Russia on the one hand, America on the one hand, and Israel is vying to be a contender among the world's superpowers, but in a strategic geographic region where my prediction is I think that within anywhere from 10 to 30 years, they will attain being a superpower and they will favor China in a way that they don't favor us. And American influence, American power will shrink back further and further and further. That's what is at stake. The whole tired trope of, well, we're fighting the Muslims over there, so we don't have to fight them here. No. You're displacing Muslims over there so that leftist Jews over here can then take them as refugees. You are actually, by fighting Israel's war, you're not stopping Islamic, jihad and takeover, at the source, at the head of the stream, so that we don't have to fight it on our own ground. No, what you're actually doing is you're displacing people, and many of them are Christians, by the way. They're not all Muslims, and you're displacing them so that the moment that we lose the midterms, and if we lose, God forbid in 2028, we deserve it, but if we lose in 2028, then you're going to have all these people that we displaced underneath war Jews, right? The GOP. Now you're going to have the gay Jews for 4 years come in and take all these, and we're going to, the end game is by 2032. Mark my words, everything we're doing now, what does it result in? More Muslims in the United States and in Europe.
And then the Muslims can take over Europe and the United States, and then they can be the new extremists that Israel has to go after. I mean, it's an endless cycle that we're entering into. And ultimately, the ultimate plan is to have Israel sort of as the only nation, right? Which is what I always say, like communism plus Zionism is globalism, right? Communism to dissolve all national boundaries and uniqueness amongst nations, and so no nation will exist except for Zion, except for Israel, which will be, unquestionable. And so, what they're creating is, yes, a superpower, but ultimately the capital of the world government, which is why it's, important where it is geographically. I think you're exactly right. I mean, we're talking about leaving NATO. I wonder if that doesn't have something to do with the saber rattling against Turkey, since Turkey's a part of NATO. I don't know how that even works, because most of our nuclear weapons in that hemisphere are in Turkey. Like they have all of America's nuclear weapons, so it'd be kind of hard to divorce from them. It would not be an easy thing. There's some very interesting prophecies about Turkey being attacked, and now Israel is buying up these Aegean islands, which is also a part of a prophecy. But this is part of a massive expansion, and this is why I made the Eighth Front War, is because you've got people literally saying verbatim, leave America, it's a dying empire, come to Israel, it's the rising empire. And the people saying this are the billionaires that are withdrawing their money from the American market and taking it to Israel. So they're calling America a failing empire. What they're leaving out is that they're the ones collapsing it from the inside out. I mean, literally, it's these people going, I'm a billionaire, I just moved to Israel, I took all my money there, we're making a new market, we're going to compete with London within 10 years. This is like just an open plan. Why we would go along with this is it's just utterly
Jews
absurd.
would never engineer a movement, and then when the movement turns on them, jump ship and go, oh, actually, that was a bad idea. Bolshevism, communism, like Soviet Russia turned on the Jews eventually. One of the first laws that was passed under the Bolshevik government were against anti-Semitism. A couple decades go on, we don't actually like these guys. It turns on them, and the Jews went over to the right. Jews do that all the time. They engineer a movement, doesn't work out very well. Surprise, surprise, and then we're going to go ahead and jump ship.
Yep.
Well, and you know, the idea of Israel, of Western countries being used to help Israel and then being turned on, like that's literally how Israel got founded. I mean, they got the Balfour Declaration, they got the British to do the mandate system to create a Jewish settlement there in Israel, and then you had the King David Hotel. As soon as they got what they needed from Britain, it was terrorist attacks against Britain. Get out of here, you colonizer. And so it feels like it's happening again with America this time.
Let's go to a quick message from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with some more thoughts. One of the best sponsors on our show is Paleovalley. They have some of the healthiest food and products and supplements you can possibly imagine. And I've been testing and trying their products, not just me, but my wife and my children, our family. Their bone broth protein is phenomenal. Their beef sticks, multiple flavors, teriyaki, summer garlic sausage, are incredible. My kids, I have 5 of them, not 5 beef sticks. I have 5 kids, which means we need like 100 beef sticks, but my children love them. They have supplements, good supplements, not trash, good supplements for both men and women. So you want to help keep NXR Studios in the game? You need to help us by patroning our sponsor. It's Paleovalley, an incredible source for healthy food, but you can't just check out their website. Don't just type it into Google. If you use our link, which is in the description for this show, the show notes below, click on that link because it'll take you to a special Paleovalley website, a curated page with all the products that me and the NXR team and our families have personally tried and that are our favorite products that we vouch for. And there's a 15% discount that's already baked in to that webpage. But you got to use our link in the show notes below. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. All right, I'm going to keep this simple. Look, I know that you know that I know that you know you're using nicotine. Half of the people listening to this show, you're using some kind of nicotine product. I know this. I'm in group chats with you. You have told me to my face. I know you're using it. So I'm not asking you to start a new habit. I'm not asking you to add something to your budget. I'm not asking you to spend money that you're not already spending. I'm simply asking for you to transition to a based Christian America First company. Right there on the cover, you have a foot crushing the head of the serpent. It's not subtle. These guys are based, they're Christian, they're America First. They make their product in America. Go to knickknack.com. Use their product and you will be supporting NXR Studios. You'll be supporting a Christian company. You will be saving 20% on your nicotine purchases. Use my promo code. It's all caps, JOEL. That's Joel 20 exclamation point. Joel 20 exclamation point. Save 20%. Go to knickknack.com.
All right, so here we are in April of 2026. We're a quarter of the way through the year. Midterms are coming up fast, and it's not looking good for Republicans, and it's entirely their fault. And frankly, it's obviously Trump's fault for the war in Iran, the way he handled the Epstein files. I mean, these things have sort of stacked up and piled on each other. But I say almost even to a greater degree, it's the Republican Party's fault for not doing anything to codify anything good that Trump has done. There's been no, major bills passed to actually have any long-term solutions to any of these problems. So anything Trump does do through executive order may be reversed. And the Democrats right now are very open, very excited about the opportunity to be utterly tyrannical as soon as they get back into office. I mean, they are not being shy. They're going to arrest Trump. They're going to arrest his family. They're going to arrest anybody that worked for him and possibly anybody that voted for him. So we're in a very, very dangerous and in a lot of ways unsolvable situation. I think maybe the most important thing to focus on right now for me is what comes next, maybe even after 2026, like what's happening in 2028. To me, 2026 is kind of a foregone conclusion just because of how badly it's gone for Trump. Unless he can pull off an absolute literal miracle in Iran and somehow convince us all it was a great idea, I don't think we're going to hold on to any aspect of the government except for the executive and the Supreme Court after November this year. So what happens in 2028? Who picks up the mantle of MAGA that has at this point been left in the gutter? The America First, not MAGA, not to make Israel great again, but make America great again. And I know that third parties are a total pipe dream and hippie nonsense here in America. I get that. But here's my argument of why a third party at this point is different than any other point in history. Typically, a third party is a breakaway faction of an establishment party. Republicans, libertarians in the Republican Party say they're not libertarian enough, so they, peel off a part of the Republican base. I don't know if I've ever seen a situation in America where a third party that was anti-Israel and pro-America first could potentially draw an equal number of dissidents from the left and the right. I think that might be a unique circumstance and something to take advantage of right now, because I get it that third parties are just a waste of time in this country, but that's been before. I don't know if there's ever been a situation that could unify people who are unhappy with the Democrats and unhappy with the Republicans that would be happy to vote for somebody who just wasn't going to sacrifice America for Israel. That, again, might be a pipe dream, but we got to be thinking about something, because basically the crown is in the gutter, the board has been flipped. Now is the time to strike and forge something new out of this disaster.
And I think that's why all of us are watching James Fishback with bated breath and seeing, we're doing a mini series with him right now. 3 episodes are already released to the public over the last 3 weeks on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And our 4th and final episode with James Fishback will be airing this coming Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, which, by the way, make sure that if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube, NXR Studios, same thing on Rumble, and then follow me on X, because we actually broadcast all of our episodes live on X as well. The handle is at Joel Webbin. But we'll be airing that fourth and final part of a long-form conversation that I got to have with James Fishback. And I understand not everybody likes him. Some people are like, I don't know, man. It seems like his transformation is pretty fresh. It's pretty recent, and I get that. I don't know about his finance background. I mean, he's like made money, splitting the penny a million ways, like clipping the edges of the coin, that seems a little suspect to me. The Barry Weiss connections, and we did a full episode where I pressed him on that. All right, let's talk about Barry Weiss. What's up with that? How can I trust you that this transition is genuine? And so, so I held his feet to the fire a little bit, and we talked about those kinds of things. And here's the deal. We still don't know. James Fishback is he's an incredible speaker. Yes, so he could just be lying through his teeth. I admit that. But here's why it still matters. It matters because even if it turns out he's lying, if he wins or even gets close, right? It's going to be hard because Florida's the third biggest state, numerical population in the union, and it's like the most boomers and the most Jews in America. So he's like, I think he could win if it was like Ohio or Oklahoma or something. So it's going to be a hard win. But here's the deal. One, I really am praying and gunning for him, rooting him on to win. I personally do like him. I've got to spend some time with him. So I'm operating with information that not all of you guys have. And some of that information is private, and I'm not at liberty to share. But I do want to be clear. I endorse James Fishback. I like him. That said, he has to win, or at least get close, because it's not just about James Fishback, but as you were talking, Harrison, about is there a third way? He represents that. Absolutely. He represents like this broad bipartisan coalition that agrees that it's got to be America only. It's got to be America first. America first doesn't mean America as a sports team winning first place in gay race communism on the global stage, but it means America first means Americans first, right? If America wins, the race in AI or this or that or the other, but we win by trading players from our team that actual Americans are not winning, then that's not America first. James Fishback actually has that platform. He has that rhetoric. He has those convictions. And for him to win Florida, or at least get close and surprise people, that to me is kind of a canary in the coal mines that says, actually, for the first time in decades and decades, there actually might be a possible pathway to this third party kind of thing that's possible. Go ahead.
Well, and you were featured in a New York Times article about CPAC that I really enjoyed, and it was so funny because in that article, they say things like everyone we talked to who was under, because there's a generational divide. The big sort of glaring thing we haven't mentioned yet is the generational divide in the support of Trump. And so there are these articles, or in this article, they're saying polls show, I can't remember what it said, but it was, 60% of young people in the GOP love Nick Fuentes, a fringe character. And it's like, okay, how is he fringe if the majority of people like him? That's just internally inconsistent. And they said something similar about Fishback, where it was like, this radical kind of whatever. So in the article, they're lamenting or commenting on the lack of youthful enthusiasm, the lack of, energy in CPAC, while talking about how the energetic, youthful people have been deliberately excluded. And the reason that Nick Fuentes or James Fishback have been excluded obviously comes down to Israel. And so you have to ask yourself, is that what defines conservatism? You can check every single box, but you don't check Israel, you're not conservative. You can be a gay race communist, but as long as you support Israel, you are conservative. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's just one of a number of topics that we should align on, and we don't have to align on that, or we should align, away from the way that the party's aligning now. But the youth and Fishback is a bellwether, and he absolutely deserves our support.
Absolutely. Sure. Okay, so this is it. I hope you guys have been blessed by the show, that you've been informed, we need you guys. We need you in the fight. There is a rising contingency of people who are calling balls and strikes, and let's be honest, they're all strikes in regards to Israel, and we're grateful for that. But there aren't a ton of guys in that space, just to be honest here at the end for a moment, who are unapologetically Christian. There's some guys who are right-wing, and we're grateful for those guys. There's a lot of co-belligerency that we can do culturally, politically, those kinds of things. But religiously speaking, a lot of the Christians are kind of the problem, sadly. These are precious people. I believe that some of them are false converts. Like they're actually sons of the devil. They're playing on the opposite team. But some of them, I think, are just deceived. They actually are born again. They really are Christians, and they're just hoodwinked by dispensationalism, by Zionism, by this, that, and the other. But my point is that there are not a lot of unapologetic, committed Christians who are also truly America first. And that's why we invited Harrison on the show. We're doing that. We need your support. Harrison is doing that. You guys can expect to see us probably in the coming weeks continue to partner a little bit more and do some things together. We have Calvin Robinson, who is another guy who fits that bill, who's unapologetically Christian, but at the same time is aware of what's going on with Israel and is very right-wing. Dale Partridge, he's both Calvin and Dale are coming on the network, and we're excited about doing some things with Harrison in the future. So stay tuned. Give us your support and support Harrison. How can they support you? What's your handle on X? How can they follow?
Yeah, following me on X is definitely the best way, at Harrison H. Smith, at Harrison H. Smith. I also do a show called Moonbase Live on Rumble. You can follow that at Moonbase Live on X and Rumble. And then, of course, I do The War Room each and every weekday, 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time on Infowars.com/show and band.video. Really, the only way that you can actually tangibly support me directly is by going to thealexjonesstore.com/Harrison. Get yourself a fantastic product. All of our products are absolutely amazing. I take them myself. So, yeah, thealexjonesstore.com/Harrison.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys. It's Friday, so we broadcast live on Friday and Wednesday and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So we'll see you, Lord willing, on Monday. God bless, and happy Easter.